Welcome everyone to a webinar from the Things Industries. Today we have two guests, Marco Dietz and Mario Schröder from Thermocon.
Hi.
I'm super excited to have you guys here. Let's hear it quickly from you guys. Give a quick introduction and who you are before we dive into short presentations. Mario, do you want to start?
Yeah, perfect. So my name is Mario Schröder. I'm with Thermocon for 2 years now, and for 1.5 years I'm in charge of the smart sensors, LoRaWAN sensors. Try to develop the business to expand our global footprint, and create the cooperation with the things industry. And now we are here to show you what we can offer and what is our footprint.
Perfect.
Yeah. The introduction of myself. My name is Marco Dietz. I'm responsible technical product manager here at Thermocon, and I'm doing this now since 4 years.
Great. Yeah, so we will learn a bit more about Thermocon in a short presentation. Just to give a bit of an overview, we have planned about an hour. We want to this time have a very short run through of what the Things Industries does for everyone to be on one page, but we will give a bit more time to our guests today who will introduce Thermocon. But this should also not be more than 20 minutes, and then we can open to the question of the audience. So feel free as we go through our quick slides to share your questions, share them in the chats wherever you're watching. We will pick them up and we will have a bit more open format after the first, let's say, third of the webinar. So I'm excited to do that and to hear from our experts and guests. But for now, just as always, a very quick introduction about the Things Industries. If you don't know us already, we are a company. We built LoRaWAN network servers. Our product is called the ThinkStack, which you can see here on the right as a logo. We live in that as a horizontal in end-to-end solutions of LoRaWAN. So our software manages the networks, LoRaWAN networks, connects gateways, handles keys, decoding, decrypting of LoRaWAN devices, as you can see in these graphics, and then processes and forwards that data forward to the end applications. You see a few statistics down here. We are managing multiple million devices for our customers. It's the ThinkStack Cloud is our hosted and managed network server, and that as a SaaS service allows you to get started for free, test and validate your business cases, and then scale and also pay as you go, as your network grows, as your application grows, and therefore as you deliver value to your customers. Why do we have these kind of webinars, and why is it important to have guests online? The LoRaWAN ecosystem showed very strong. It is a market of product leaders, not necessarily end-to-end product leaders, which also exists, but because it is an open ecosystem, we have different horizontals, and we see that the strongest alliances are between partners who do one horizontal of the end-to-end solution very well, which in our case, we aspire to do that for the LoRaWAN network server. And today we hear from Thermocon, who are experts for decades already on the sensor side. And in this case, let's zoom in a bit of what a sensor or anti-device sensor actually consists of. I will leave the stage to Thermocon to share a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Felix, for the introduction. Just the brief words about our company, Thermocon. Maybe you can switch to the next slide. Thanks for that. So Thermocon is the expert in building automation market. So Thermocon develops and manufactures sensors for more than 35 years. Dedicated for the building automation market, and we are headquartered in the middle of Germany with nearly 300 employees. And since the beginning of this year, we expanded our product portfolio to IoT sensors. So we expanded our footprint from our product portfolio perspective. And yeah, our sensors are available globally. And there was very high quality. We provide 5 years guarantee of all of our products. There's a state of the art in building automation market, and I guess also in the IoT market. Yeah, that's a brief overview of what Thermocon does and where we come from and where we are located. And yeah.
Okay, perfect. Then I will go ahead and yeah, perhaps there's a question why Thermocon, as let me say, well-established sensor manufacturer in the building automation market, is going to the IoT market, and what was, let me say, our reason for doing so. So during the last years, we saw that more and more sensor applications were popping up where devices were connected, very different devices and different technologies, and now at the moment everybody is talking about IoT. And so that was the reason. That was why we saw that our traditional building automation market, the sensors we are using for this, can also be used in other applications. In, let me say, applications that are more related to the IoT world. So that's why we decided to have a closer look on IoT technologies, also on mainly on wireless technologies, and that's why we saw that LoRaWAN was one of the most suited low power wide area network technologies for this, as it has this open standard that Felix mentioned before. It has a very dynamic ecosystem, and this is perfect for the idea that Thermocon already has, that we were used to have technologies in our portfolio which relies on open standard and which are not proprietary systems. Yeah, and this is the perfect place when we saw the development of the market and of the IoT technologies, how we as Thermocon could bring our, let me say, our know-how into the game. That means our core competence are the sensors, also the development and the manufacturing. That means, as Felix mentioned, that we are kind of product leader in the sensor market, that we can do everything from the development about manufacturing and let me say application know-how, and that was what we can bring. That is what we now bring to the LoRaWAN market and to the IoT ecosystem. Yeah, that's my short addition to that what Mario had mentioned before.
Awesome. Right. Yeah, I think it is extremely interesting to see the manufacturing is actually also taking place in Germany.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Awesome. It's actually, I think we've spent some time together the last years. Marco, you already spoke at the Things conference in Amsterdam last year. We've met on a few trade shows as well, not only on the Things conference. And what I found quite notable is on your booth, you had a very strong narrative on the building automation space. But then on the timeline you have as a feature on the booth, it says LoRaWAN is almost like equally a milestone in the company history. So does that mean you'll leave the building automation space, or do you expand on it? How does it work?
So absolutely not. So building automation is still our core business, but then we started with LoRaWAN technology. It was pretty clear that the LoRaWAN is not just a fit for building automation. It opens more or less the door to several other applications: smart cities, smart infrastructure, smart agriculture. So we see the values we measure in the building are also needed in tons of other applications. And yeah, to answer your question, so we are not leaving the building. We are expanding the footprint and bring our sensors to the IoT world. Great.
Yeah. Another thing which I found quite notable was the you said like from a building to the IoT market. So do you think there is IoT market for you something which is new, and entering this space, or is it more it's just a technology which is adopted now?
So what we see in the market is that all our current customers are very interested in the technology, but so they're using wires for several decades, and it's hard to convert all our clients at one step. So yeah, it's a process to convert our existing clients to that wireless technology as an add-on. But what we see is the IoT market is already using LoRaWAN sensors or wireless sensors overall, and that's easier to bring the LoRaWAN sensors into the IoT world because it's already known, and they can use it and to understand connectivity dashboarding topics. And in the building automation market, we are the very first step to implement this technology in this market.
Great. I know I've seen that it's a very integrator-focused audience you cater to up to now. What is your pitch? What's the sweet point for them to adopt LoRaWAN as a more traditional integrator who has worked for decades maybe in this space already?
So my point of view is that we cannot get rid of the wires in the building. It will stay in the building so for decades, but with smart sensors, multi-compact sensors, for example, or multi-purpose sensors, we can bring additional features to the building which can be run over the LoRaWAN network or infrastructure.
Great. Yeah, so that will be perfect. So you think it's more of a retrofit experience that we can update and upgrade the current buildings which are already wired, new technologies come out, new opportunities come out, so we can upgrade with different features.
Yeah, that could be an option, retrofits, upgrades, but also for new buildings. So so Marco will present a sensor shortly, and from after that we will have some slides where we show which applications can be done with just this tiny sensor, and you will see it's not just building automation focused.
Awesome, perfect. Yeah, I'm curious to see, and Marco, if you could mention also at what stage, let's say, it would make sense to use either wired or a LoRaWAN connection, where LoRaWAN it might be really like a sweet spot, would be perfect.
Yeah, for the, let me say, traditional building automation, as you had mentioned before, this retrofit aspect is very important. Also, that LoRaWAN is one technology that brings together many different applications. When we see other technologies, for example, in the building, we have some technologies that are very focused on the HVAC system, or other technologies that are very focused on the metering side. But LoRaWAN is able to deal with all of them. And I guess for traditional customers who once get started with LoRaWAN, it's very easy for them later on to extend the application and using the same infrastructure.
Great. Yeah, and I think you just mentioned, Mario just mentioned you had a quick overview on the sensors you provide, and
yeah, for sure. We can step to it. Yeah. Just to get an introduction to this topic, as Mario mentioned, we the sensors we use or we have in our portfolio, were mainly used in the building automation market, or also in buildings. And the interesting point when we're talking about buildings from our side is that more or less 80% the costs of a building occurring during the runtime. That means energy costs or costs of the usage. And so it is very important to, to optimize buildings concerning this, even if it is under the energy aspect, or the user management aspect, or risk management for entrance control, whatever. And so that we see that many of these applications, like the user management or the risk management, that are done already by the companies coming out of the IoT market. So, and our sensors can also fit perfectly to already to these applications where applications are realized besides the traditional building automation that's more focusing on the HVAC and on the energy points. So, and the perfect solution, one perfect solution for this is now the sensor that we want to present to you. It's one of our multi-compact sensors, and this is a very small and aesthetic looking sensor which can be used for a wide range of applications. We have included many different measurement values. It is available in different colors, and it has such a, let me say, compact dimension that you can, let me say, locate it everywhere, and it is nearly invisible. And sometimes this is also an aspect if you're talking about, let me say, high quality buildings, that you want to have sensors which are nearly invisible, but the building should run as it is intended in this application. So, and now we will have a closer look on, let me say, different applications that can be realized with the sensors.
Yeah, thanks, Marco, for sharing all the sensor details with us. These are just some potential applications which we see for this sensor, which are not dedicated to building automation market, but great adds-on to control the building. For example, shared desk application. So shared desks are more established in the entire world since we have Corona. What's the core information a provider needs to know? Is a desk open or is occupied? And this information can be shared with the sensor. Also, indoor air quality. As you know, the indoor air quality has a great impact of the healthy and the fitness of the worker. So you can track also indoor air quality and give warnings to open the windows or to bring fresh air through the duct into the room. Addition to that, we have the option to do optimized heating. So is the room occupied or not? Is heating needed or not? Is light needed or not? Depends on the occupancy of the room. Just done by one sensor. So when we jump to the next slide, it's more or less the same. Meeting rooms, co-working spaces. So what is the goal? To have all the people in the room and you will present results and work on actions. So persons have to be fit. So indoor air quality has to be very high to ensure that workers are on a high level. Again, optimized heating, efficient operating. This can be done with all these sensors Marco showed you earlier. So when it comes to data points, so we are talking about virtual twins, so we need data points, and the more data points we create, the more data centers we need. And to ensure that we have 24/7 service on our data, so we have to ensure that the data center is in operation. And this is also something we can track with several sensors, leak detection, temperature, airflow, and so on. So we can ensure that the data center runs on the best conditions to ensure that we have a 24/7 service. Yeah, so next slide, warehousing. We know all the big players 24/7 deliveries, and that means we need tons of warehouses. And we have also to ensure that the goods which are stored in the warehouse are stocked under the conditions as they used to be. So same points here, temperature, humidity, leakage, status of doors, windows, just to ensure that the goods are protected before they leave the warehouse to the end customer. And washrooms, pretty cool application. We all expect clean washrooms, but how is the cleaning plan done today? So they are tracking it hourly or on a special frequency. But when we track it with smart sensors, we can plan our service based on live data and historical data, just to ensure that we have enough material till the next service comes in, or in case of any water detection is made, so we get an alert so that the floor won't be destroyed, or we can block the washroom for the next service. So this is all done by the smart sensors. Also, light is nobody in the room, no light is needed. Means we can save resources, energy, and save money. Yes, the restaurants is similar to the meeting rooms and the co-working spaces. All the visitors should feel well in the restaurant. So this is an indicator of indoor air quality, just to ensure that everybody feels or is happy. And also we can detect status of windows or doors, so also leakage detection. So when the restaurant is closed, just to be sure that also windows are closed, nobody can jump into the restaurant from window side, or no water detect or water leakage is available. So we need to detect the status of the restaurant to keep the restaurant going and going and going, and to avoid any downtimes. And this is the application we have here right on the corner. So this is a power station or transformation station. This is important infrastructural building. So this is similar to a data center. We have to ensure that this building has no downtime. So we protect it with door status, window status, leakage detection, and also we track it inside. So this building sees a serviceman once or twice a year. So when he leaves the building and he is not switching off the light, so that means the lights will be on during the next 6 months. So this is just wasting money, wasting energy. With our sensors, we track this inside status to ensure that we do not destroy money and resources. So these are just some examples which are really or has no relation to a typical building automation market. So as you can see, the values are needed in the building, but we can expand it to various other applications.
It's quite interesting, right? Because at first you come from that building automation space, which means there are extremely high requirements in accuracy. And I think that's why it's notable that you manufacture, you control the complete creation of the hardware. And in our space, we know hardware is the hardest bit, right? Like once we have a data point, that's not the problem. We can encrypt it, we can decrypt it, we can format it, we can multiply it, send it between different applications back and forth. So the software world is quite straightforward at that point, and we're happy to give feedback on what we see. But it is actually quite interesting, because you've mentioned some very critical points. So how do you ensure that what you are measuring meets the high quality standards of the actual value which you want to capture?
Yeah, from a technical point of view, we have, let me say, a very big testing equipment here at our site, and we are doing many inline tests and serial tests where we exactly ensure this, that the temperature value that's getting out of the sensor is the proper value. Nevertheless, there is always a point, or let me say, it consists of 2 points. And let me say, accuracy of a sensor, 1 point is just the hardware, the simple hardware, and the other point is the application. We say, how is the sensor installed? There are some points which we as manufacturer could not affect, and we have to, let me say, to train our customers, we say, to install the sensors in a proper way, to, let me say, to measure the right temperature. For example, if you mount a temperature sensor on the ceiling, you have to be sure that the measurement value is much higher than it is at, let me say, at a height of 1 meter. But we see this in the field that there is some training to do and to train the customers to, let me say, to use the sensors in a proper way that the high accuracy of our sensors can be brought to the network.
Yeah, I think especially anyone who has ever tried to scale a larger IoT project knows that the deployment costs, like it is intolerable for any business case if you've mounted a sensor in the wrong place. If you have to go there again to change it or to adjust, the costs will, it will break the bank, right? Like there's very few cases which would be resilient to that. So I think it makes a lot of sense. If I know the sensor is placed there, I know this type of technology of hardware has been reliable in the wired sensor space, and we know that LoRaWAN will also be a good combination, and we know that with your consultancy. So you would typically have a lot of conversations with your customers up front, or yeah.
For sure, that's a big part of that we train our customers, that we help our system integrators, let me say, to install the sensors properly. And for sure, the technical documentation, what we have to done is very detailed in this point.
Great. So you're available only in Germany, or are you more spread?
No, we have a global footprint. We are headquartered in Germany, but have sales office in more or less all European countries and corporations overseas.
Amazing. So yeah, that's great. So in all languages. So I think the message to integrators is quite clear, right? If you have been in the building automation space, if you have seen these slides, I mean, we've put some efforts into our business case collection as well to show everything you've shown we know works with LoRaWAN, and you will be it will be quite easy to buy in a high quality sensor, rely on our service level agreement. We can help on making the end-to-end solution work reliably and scale, and we can help through these iterations. So if you're curious on how to do that, feel free to reach out, and small quantities of sensors, and recognize these cases. And if you have questions now, again, like the invitation, feel free to write a comment or to put it in the chat, so we can actually pick up your questions right here. In the end, we will share also an email address, so you can reach out in private if you would like to do so. Now, the wireless approach, and I think LoRaWAN has been very much pushed from the cloud, from the IT side, not necessarily from integrators who've used wires, and now we're looking into a wireless option. How did that happen on the Thermocon side? Like, why did you choose LoRaWAN as a protocol to expand your footprint, as Mario so well phrased?
Yeah, the reason for why we have chosen LoRaWAN, I tried to mention it a little bit before, that the technology and the ecosystem behind was, let me say, very impressive. First point, that we don't want to do, let me say, technology that just Thermocon uses, and everybody don't want to have this technology as just a single technology of us. So, and the second point was the possibility to deploy LoRaWAN in different types. That means you can either go for a completely private network if you have your small installation for a on-premise network server, but if you want to scale your application, then it's easily possible for you to go to a cloud solution and go for the things industries and connect them to the cloud dashboard.
How did you find the learning curve? I mean, you've been product manager for a while. I think you've also worked with different protocols. Did you find it particularly difficult to set up these kind of solutions?
From a more technical point of view, I see it perhaps the initial part is a little bit more difficult, but if it is set up once, then escalation becomes very easy. And that is perhaps an example that we have here at our office building, at our headquarters. We installed once a gateway at our rooftop and set up the things industries network server. And now I don't care here at our building about connectivity. I just installed sensors everywhere, and now LoRaWAN can play its advantages fully.
Yeah. No, I had the same impression. Like I started LoRaWAN a few years ago. I think this pace this technology matures has been very high, and even the framing and communications around it. What you were saying, it's actually good to hear from a company like Thermocon and the team R&D team at Thermocon that they say, okay, look, LoRaWAN has been attractive for us because of the flourishing ecosystem, and that has been already for a few years. And I think we see this effect double down and scale even more. So you're almost like welcomed into a peer group of people who are making different verticals, different solutions work, and who are very supportive also to look left and right on how we can help each other. Again, we will share the invitation to the Things conference, where you will also exhibit and where you will also speak again, which I'm excited about. But I think that's a big factor, that it is a quite supportive world, which has a bit of this IT. We share knowledge, we pull each other up to make let's say the cake a bit larger for everyone, to capture a good chunk.
Yeah.
Do you feel then, were you ever tempted to say, okay, we expand more into also gateways and software, etc., or why is it that you said, okay, we stick to sensors and the communication on top of that? Was that a discussion internally?
I guess that is exactly the point that you mentioned before, that in the LoRaWAN world, it's oftentimes that the different players are focusing on that what they can do best.
Yeah.
And so we decided for us that what we can do best in this ecosystem and we can bring to the LoRaWAN world is the sensor know-how. And that's why we that was our initial part, that we started just with the sensors and want to bring this to the LoRaWAN world and then see how it develops.
Yeah. Mario, if from the commercial side, from the use case side, Marco mentioned quite a few cases, right? And if I wanted to summarize these under some umbrellas, right, we had condensation, which is basically risk prevention and damage prevention. That's hard cash we can basically save in not having these damages and making sure they are avoidable. We had something about luxury, right? It's like added comfort. If I can actually make sure the indoor air quality is perfect, not only towards productivity of employees, and then just also again like quite hard, valuable operational advantages. If I can optimize cleaning schedules, if I can switch off lights, right? If I can make sure a technician is dispatched to a data center because we can see an issue already come up before a customer would find it. Where do you see the future of LoRaWAN and of your sensors? Where would it get more structured?
So I see the future of our sensors all over the place. So there is no limitation in my point of view. So when we talk about agriculture, we need temperature, humidity to ensure that the plants will grow as planned and as fast as possible. Also in the building, also on infrastructure points like airports, train stations. So yeah, so data points are the future. In my point of view, the virtual twin comes more and more in our day-to-day business. And from that point, as mentioned before, we have to create data point, and from that point, we have to do the right action, to do the right things, to save costs and save resources.
Yeah. So how's it been? I think I know you have a few partners which you picked to deliver some end-to-end solutions before. How did that go? Like, was that easy to do and to expand to different verticals? How have your partnerships been? Maybe, I don't know if you could even name some.
So as you know, we are relatively new in the smart sensor world. So we have to get awareness. That's what we are doing with this show. We are participating at shows, we are exhibiting at shows, we are doing the webinars just to inform the audience at the IoT world that we are existing and that we know what we are doing and point of sensors. But for connectivity and dashboarding, we are now experts. We recommend companies. Other companies are also well known in other other organizations. So it's Marco already mentioned, better together, and with that solution, the end customer receives the best fit, and this is our goal. And I'm pretty sure Marco has one additional slide where he will present how to save money through optimized heating, and there's a short example which companies are included in that business case.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, exactly. Let me say this: the last application that we want to share with you this afternoon is let me say a typical example from my point of view how LoRaWAN could help you with this. On the left-hand side, we see let me say the actual state where how most times heating is done via radiators. You have a manual thermostat, or even older applications, you have a manual valve, and this, they work very well, but there is some, let me say, optimization potential that you can that you have there. So if you now change, let me say, a manual thermostat to a LoRaWAN thermostat, you have more or less the same functionality, but you have the possibility to control this remotely over the cloud if you're using cloud connectivity, then also from, let me say, from abroad. And this could increase massively the performance or the optimization of the building, as you can, let me say, realize time schedules, you can switch off it periodically, and this is the first but the most important point in this application, how you can let me say save money with heating systems and LoRaWAN. And now comes the biggest advantage of LoRaWAN, that you can extend the application step by step. Depending on, let me say, on the functionalities you want to realize. For example, you can add an external temperature sensor to the LoRaWAN thermostat. Sometimes it isn't not so sensible to measure the room temperature directly next to the radiator itself, even if it has a good compensation. So it makes sense to have an external temperature sensor. This is then the next step of the innovation there. And additionally to this, you can add a motion sensor. That means even if you have a time schedule there, perhaps during the day you realize that the room is not occupied, then you can turn down the heating a little bit. And on the last hand side, and the last point, then you can also add, let me say, window contacts where you can switch off the heating if the window is open big part of the time. And here you see, let me say, the complete way how LoRaWAN can be extended, how LoRaWAN application can be extended from a manual application step by step in order to improve the performance of a system more and more.
Yeah, perfect. And so we can be very flexible. We can start off in one pilot project. We can validate. We can see how the colleagues maybe in an office space are adapting to it, getting used to certain spaces, and maybe it could be. I think it's a quite smooth way to roll out such innovation in a space and not make it feel like I'm controlling, the radiator for my colleagues or something like that. That there is added advantage, and maybe even teams coming up with their own ideas on how to expand that, and you don't have to reopen a wall to bring a wire, etc. And because like end to end, right, all the thermos, like the hand control, the sensor, and also the thermostat control is from you. So I think
exactly
everybody who looked into control circuits of heating and when do I turn the heat lower, and like I have to really factor in how precise my temperature sensors are, how the where the temperature sensor is mounted, because otherwise I might have an extremely warm room and the sensor is mounted near a window which has a bit of drag or something like that, draft.
Exactly,
So I think that there is a bit an art to it, and it's definitely interesting to for the IT world to look at a partner who has tons of experience with that, so that we position it up front correctly. Yeah, nice. So you have here a slide. What's that about? So I recognize our logo. I also recognize Thermocon and Data Cake. So you showed a few.
That perfectly summarized what you have mentioned. Just that how at the moment our approach is in such a solution, for example, in this room solution, that we as Thermocon, we provide the components, the hardware, like the radiator valve and the external temperature sensor, the motion sensor. Then for connectivity, for LoRaWAN network, you can rely on the things industries, and then use for dashboarding or for, let me say, the remote control platform like DataCake. And this is just, let me say, the whole solution in a nutshell.
Amazing. And yeah, great. So I know you were I know also I noticed Marco, you are quite present on trade shows as well, right? So is that also the reason why you send, let's say, the technical team to such trade shows where you might not find an R&D colleague at all? And how does that usually go, these type of conversations? Is this customers who say, here's the problem, and I would like you to solve all of it, and you recommend the partners, or are these people who come in and want you for your specific skill, let's say? They know that already.
Yeah, I realized during the last trade shows I've done due to LoRaWAN that it's very good, even in the beginning of, let me say, a market introduction, that we from the technical product management team gets as much information directly from the customers from the field as possible. And so it was a very good part to, let me say, to have a colleague with me who's doing this from the sales or from the business development side, and also from the technical part. And I guess this is a good combination for introducing a new technology, although sometimes to the existing customers.
Yeah, I think we see that as well, quite strong. And I think that if you continue, now you've been a couple of years into LoRaWAN. What we've noticed is that rolling out a network, a private networks, like in a hotel, in an office building, in a restaurant, in a mall, or something like that, you will need some sort of anchor use case, which is basically paying for the infrastructure for the operational costs of such a network. So yeah, looking there into the more valuable use cases like heating automations, giving feedback to HVAC, all these energy consuming, heat consuming type of applications that might pay for the actual network. And then we can be very opportunistic and add different features to it and say, okay, can we automate also this cleaning schedule? Can we maybe automate, connect some sort of control loop on when we would expect lights to be on, etc. So then, what Mario mentioned, it's not only retrofittable, but it's over time expandable, and that makes it quite interesting on how we can upgrade and iterate through adding more and more value to that deployment. And that is, I guess, also not only the case if you started with Thermocon sensors. So I know a lot of our audience, they already host their deployments and they have some sort of solutions. So if you say like now, okay, look, there is a specific question around sensing problem you have, or you always thought, oh, if I knew that, could I actually avoid condensation in my building, in a shaft, in a cable shaft or something like that? So there the invitation, come to Amsterdam to the Things conference, or send us an email. For, of course, send also your questions here, but I think that's quite unique that you can approach the R&D team, the product management directly with Marco and his colleagues to learn about how can I solve that on the sensor side, and then we can basically amplify that project by scaling up with the Things stack in the background and making sure, let's say, the data point delivery is being very sustainable, also with partners like DataCake, of course. I think one of the more, I don't know if it's a philosophical question or more of a market development. I see that if you go into buildings and assets like this, even a data center, if you go into data center, not but a transformer station, factories, etc., there is a little bit of reluctance to have some sort of control logic in the cloud. You would rather have a little machine, a PLC, right? Like our well-known brands managing things locally. But we've seen that, okay, either we can make it more expensive and deploy the think stack and all the infrastructure locally, so you have that support, the DevOps overhead, etc., to manage such an IT deployment locally, versus doing what maybe our audience does more often, is taking advantage of that SaaS effect. Like, yes, the things industries can do it for you, and they can do it. You pay maybe 10% of what it would cost if you had to do the same overhead. I'm very, very curious. How do you think we can solve that, or is that actually is it a problem? Like that there is this decision to make where to run everything. Should everything be embedded, let's say, or and local, or do we expand on the cloud? Does the cloud have to be a bit more? Yeah, well, we cannot provide a service level on the internet, for example, right? So we might not have that. Mario, do you have
So I'm pretty sure it depends on the application, on the customer, on the internal IT infrastructure. What can the company do by itself, or what is needed from as a service? So from that point, it's hard to answer, but I guess the software as a service approach will have a big growth rate in the near future. So I guess a lot of companies need to understand that the software as a service is a real product, instead of just buying components and they own it and they run it. So it's not the way LoRaWAN works. So you need the components, you need the connectivity and the dashboarding, and in case of you cannot do step 2 and 3 by your own, you have to use software as a service. And this is, it's a learning curve. And when we see that's the system, that's how it works, then we see one component, the hardware, and the rest is the software as a service, and therefore the data points and the data center will grow, and we will.
So you say basically we acknowledge, So we acknowledge a little bit that it cannot be bulletproof, but for example, in a hotel room, you might have your local controls wired up, and in 99.99% of the cases, we also have the LoRaWAN connectivity, and we could centrally in the hotel make sure we can do some controls additionally to LoRaWAN. We don't need a centralized system. We can retrofit that maybe quite easily. So it's basically accounting for the edge cases, building maybe a little bit of redundancy, but we can lean on that technology as far as we can lean on the cloud and internet connectivity being available.
I see that this is, let me say, a very important point, that the customer has to be sure that he has a system, a cloud system that works properly. And so that's, for me, that's always important to go to the customer with a, let me say, a ready working solution, or show them not just bring him the components and then say, okay, you're responsible now for everything else. Just show him this end-to-end solution. Have a reliable partner on the, let me say, on the control side, have a reliable partner on the connectivity side, and then a reliable partner on the sensor side. And this could be then a setup to give the first time to a customer.
No, absolutely. I think it increases the chances as well. If we come together with different companies who have track records in different aspects of this end-to-end solution, the quality is way higher, and we can also be. I think we have to be very honest about. Okay, this is a great case for LoRaWAN. This is where it will really flourish. You can invest, you can upscale, but if we are, let's say, trying to push boundaries. It will not be sustainable. So it's great to retrofit. It's great to maybe even for architects to design new facilities, whatever type of facilities that is, to think along the lines. Okay, how can I implement 90% of, let's say, the smart applications into my building without having to wire everything up. Make sure locally the basics are running. So your chart which is showed on the left side, it's not about what 100% on the left or 100% on the right, but we have the capacity to mostly cover all of that. And as you said, the open standard, that there is such a community coming together to develop the technology, which is very resilient. I think at this point we see between the gateway manufacturers, the network servers, of course the cloud side, we have immense reliability and resilience. I think we are more careful on what we promise, but we outperform it in most of the cases for sure. What do we expect from you? What can we expect from you in Amsterdam at the Things conference? So now we learned a bit about your sensors. I think you have a lot more sensors than what you showed today. You had a keynote last year already. So I'll be there for sure. But make your pitch. Right? Like, what can we? Why would I get my ticket now to Amsterdam while tickets are still cheap?
So we will definitely show a wider range of our product portfolio and also applications, what we can do, what we can offer. We will also give you an example how we can help partners to get access to business, how we can share our knowledge and something like that. We will also be on stage and get more insight in Thermocon and our products and our use cases. Try to get more awareness in the LoRaWAN world and to make Thermocon a great hardware supplier for all the audience and the IoT world.
Yeah, that's great. So basically, if you're an integrator, come by and see what it can do on the wired versus wireless side. If you are already in the LoRaWAN space, come by and learn how you can maybe enter a new vertical or how you can introduce such applications into your vertical where you already know what is going on. And if you are a product leader or you are focusing on some part of an end-to-end solution in LoRaWAN, reach out, get to know the team of Thermocon so you can plot for your next projects and convert the next pilot project in the next success story in our ecosystem. I think it's exciting that we can cater to all of that. And last question would be again to the audience listening in. If you have any questions, feel free. We have a few more minutes left. You can post them in the chat and we can answer them. If not, you can also reach out to us by email. If you've signed up, you have our email addresses, so feel free to answer to that. We will share to everyone who has signed up. We will share the content you've seen today, the slides as well. So even if you've rewatched this now on YouTube and you weren't part of the live stream, that's not a problem at all. Just use the sign up link in the description. And we will forward you the content, including contacts, so you can reach out to us in advance. So use the summer break, get started, get exploring, ask if there are sample sensors, for example, available for first tests. It's a great time to take advantage of that summer gap, let's say. And then we hope to see you at the Things conference. Just to maybe phase that in for a second. How you could get there. If I could share my screen, perfect. So the Things conference, you find that at the thingsconference.com. You can buy your tickets. It's on the 21st to 22nd of September. It is in Amsterdam. It's very easy to reach as well from wherever you're coming from. And we will find partners. You will find any possible partners in the LoRaWAN ecosystem. So if you had an idea, if you want to explore that market and that technology, come by and you will find the product leaders and the leaders in their spaces, respectively, to craft a very high-level, high-quality end-to-end solutions in the LoRaWAN space. Ticket prices vary, so it's always a bit cheaper to get the tickets soon. And if you want, also take advantage. We've published already some partners, including Thermocon, the speakers. So I highly encourage you reach out much before the conference. If you have an idea, let's do all the discussions around what your idea is. Let's prepare it so we get the most out of our time when we meet in person in Amsterdam. It really helps us a lot if we can do some preparations for it, and you will find that we can get the most out of the actual time in person together. Great. I see. If we can close this, perfect. And then we have again a few minutes left, but I think I haven't seen any questions so far. Do you guys have anything to add? Anything which I missed? No.
All good from my point.
Awesome. No, okay, perfect. So I think everybody's in summer holiday mode again. So I hope you're watching this from the beach or maybe the traffic jam on the way into the holidays. That's also fair enough. Again, like send us an email, sign up to the webinar itself also later, and you can find it. But yeah, it was great to have you here. Yeah, so actually there is one question came in. So if you wanted to have a sample sensor, or if you wanted to evaluate the product somehow, how would you go about that?
Drop me an email, and I will send a sample to anyone who's interested in it.
Perfect. So we will share also Mario's email in the sign up after you've signed up, either as a follow up to the sign-ups now, or if you sign up later. So yeah, if you are looking into sample sensors and the first conversation, just sign up to the webinar, and we will you can get in touch, and we can start this conversation. The sensor, it's hardware. The ThinkStack is always available as the free discovery version, and that would be already your production server, which you can use for up to 10 sensors free of charge. And then we would lift limits as you go into production and add more sensors. You can find that as well on our website, and we will share links as well. So that's not a problem. So yeah, great. It was really a pleasure. I like that we could have a little bit of a discussion around that. It's really always interesting to learn from other industries as they adopt new technologies. I think that's really interesting for us on the, let's say, IT side. Thermocon, expanding your footprint. I'm very curious how fast you can scale, and I also am very curious how fast we can convince some of your existing partners how to adopt LoRaWAN, right? Like let's see where it can compete, where it's good to work together. One last question we got: are you open to new partnerships? Do you consider?
Absolutely. So we are looking for new partners out of the IoT world, and really appreciate this question. And yeah, please feel free to reach out to me. So we can discuss in more detail.
Perfect. Okay, now they're coming in, all the questions on the last 2 minutes. That's perfect.
Yeah,
so we have anyone? Oh no, it's only a comment. So they love EU manufacturers.
That's great. Great to hear.
Made in the EU, made in Germany. It seems to be a factor. Yeah, it has all pros and cons for sure. We see that's the beauty of a big ecosystem. You can really pick your partner and find the one who has the best fit for what you want to do. But yeah, a track record like Thermocon, which exceeds 4 times the age of LoRaWAN, that's definitely a statement you can make, and we're happy to have you on board and help us.
Thanks for that.
Make sure we can conquer with the same quality of solutions in different verticals. Again, contact details please is a question. Sign up to the webinar. You will find that on LinkedIn posts of both the Thermocon page and the Things Industries page, or on YouTube in the description. So please just sign up to the form, and we will send a follow-up email later this week or early next week. And then you can reach out by answering or contacting us directly. But we are in close touch, so it doesn't matter who you reach out to. We will make sure we get the conversation started. Yeah, perfect. 5 on the dot. So with the last-minute questions, we managed that. Unless you have any other comments, I would say let's close here, and let's continue chats by email and then in Amsterdam in September.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
See you then.
Perfect. All right. See you then.
See you in Amsterdam.
See
Bye.
you.